Hey everybody, Dorothy here. I'm going to do the full moon forecast for you as promised in my last video. So the full moon in the sign of Gemini, December 7th, and it is at 16 degrees of Gemini. Now this is, I love these full moons. I love when the moon is in the air signs, because if you're feeling emotional or those around you are feeling emotional, whenever the moon is in an air sign, we have an opportunity to talk our issues out, have a dialogue. How are you feeling? Right? This is something that's really important when it comes to the full moons, especially when they're in air signs. And here we are. We have that full moon in the sign of Gemini. I'm going to share my screen for those of you who are more into astrology than others. Don't you be overly worried, though, if you can't read this, okay? All right. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is, you've been listening. I know you guys have read and watched other forecasts. Moon conjunct Mars retrograde in Gemini. That's pretty significant in a sense that this is just an uncommon occurrence. And so what does it mean for us? The moon, the full moon, always it represents a culmination of an awful lot of energy. And it depends on the lunar phase and the cycles that you love to follow. And I use a lunar gestation cycle. I'm going to talk about that in today's forecast too. So stay with us. Like, what is this? What new moon is this one related to? So full moon in Gemini conjunct Mars, that's what this looks like right here. It does make a square over here to Neptune. Of course, the sun is square Neptune as well. And so I do have the ascendant in midheaven in here, but I am going to remove it because we are all, you can see how we remove it. The reason I remove these things is because not everybody lives at my latitude and longitude. So you might find that the full moon, you will find, if you don't live in my same longitude and latitude, that the full moon is in a different house, in a different area for where you live. So we don't talk about that in this type of a forecast, but the general energy of what this full moon is valid for absolutely everybody. So they are conjunct. It's a full moon, the moon in Gemini, an air sign. We are here to communicate how we're feeling and share that with those that are important to us. Oppositions will almost always represent partnerships and relationships, as well as a full-on awareness of what's happening around you in regard to Gemini qualities, information, words, contracts, moving around a little bit, maybe your car, maybe your transportation. All of these things are what's highlighted during the moon, especially the full moon in Gemini. With it right next door to Mars retrograde in Gemini, that's another whole story, because Mars has been retrograde in Gemini since the end of October. It's been in Gemini since the end of August, and it will remain in this sign for a while, all the way until we get to the very end of March, like March 25th. And so with that being said, information overload is what's happening for a lot of people right now. And with this full moon making a 90-degree angle to Neptune in Pisces. I mean, Neptune is the ruler of this chart. He's that what we call a final dispositor. That means I don't want to get into that because that's really astrology. But Neptune has a lot of play going on here, and that means a number of different things. He's now direct. He went direct a few days ago, and it means that now we get to really get into sync and allow things to flow. Look at what's in front of you. Look at what's going on in your world. And then you should be able to, if you cannot push hard, don't push. Mars retrograde in Gemini, full moon conjunct Mars retrograde in Gemini. Do not push. We need to slow down and consider and reconsider what is going on in our lives, and you have to find the placement of this in your own chart, okay? And that will give you a little more content. But overall, it is all about what you are communicating, how you value that, and how that is coming to the surface for you. Many of us, I recommend that we just stop, we slow down, we go quiet, listen, follow that flow. Follow that path of least resistance. That is what we can be doing when we have a full moon like this. Again, full moon in Gemini, air, it is, we really want to share how we're feeling about things, but with it conjunct Mars, as Mars is retrograde, it's at the same declination as Mars is too. This is what that oscillation of Mars is all about. If you've heard about that, my prior video talks about it a little bit too, so go listen to that. But with these guys coming together here, these guys coming together here, and that 90-degree angle over there to Neptune, it can create not clear information. It's like you've written something down and then you can't read your own writing. So what's the context? You should be able to figure out what you wrote by the context of the paragraph. So that's what I'm asking us and telling us. It's like, what's the overall picture? What's your overall message? We don't have to have anything show up clear right now. But what we want to do is we want to trust, we want to slow down, and we want to listen. Those are the things that we really need to do with this full moon, because if we do those things, the clarity that we will receive, and it may not be at this moment in time, but the clarity that we will receive as the moon is separating from Neptune over the next few hours and the next day, we will have an opportunity to see more and understand more. All right, that's what I want us to do with this full moon in Gemini, conjunct Mars in Gemini, Mars retrograde in Gemini. Now, I promised I would talk about, I gotta do a new share, hold on, the lunar gestation cycle. And that is a phase that starts with every new moon. Oh, here's my forecast. You guys, if you can go read it on my website, and oopsies. And the best thing to do, honestly, is to join my newsletter email list. I only do that twice a month. Please come and join me there. That is a way that you will have that written forecast, because I talk about more than just what I'm talking about right now. I write stuff out. It's where I process my thoughts, and you can read it and get more content that way too. All right. Now, the lunar gestation cycle is when every single new moon starts a 3-year cycle. And this 3-year cycle is divided by 4. So that means 9-month intervals. Lunar gestation cycle. Lunar phase family is what this software calls it. And the new moon solar eclipse on June 10th, 2021 was at 19 degrees of Gemini. This is when the whole cycle and pattern began that is related to December 7th's full moon. Go back, look at what you were processing. Look at what had begun, and it could have been your own hopes and dreams and new moon wishes that you wrote down on that eclipse. Let me tell you, starting new things on new moon eclipses is tricky, because things are hidden. things are hidden at that point in time. So in hindsight, it's easy to see, hopefully it will be easy to see what was initiated back in that time frame from June 10th, 2021. And this was at like 7 a.m. East Coast time. And after that, okay, so in that couple of week period around June 10th, right, that new moon, what did you initiate? What was your focus, your hopes, your dreams? And look at contracts you may have signed, agreements other people made with you, you made with them, buying a new car. All of those types of things are things that would have been begun back June 10, 2021. Now, 9 months later, let me highlight the next thing is March 10th, 2022. That's this year, March 10th. That first quarter is a struggle sometimes because it's a 90-degree angle. I'll show you what that chart looks like. Why don't I bring them both up? It shows you it's a 90-degree angle, and that's when here's the moon is at 19 Gemini. The sun is over here at a 90-degree angle, right? Today's full moon, the sun and the moon are opposite, all right? And then that new moon on June 10th, they were in the same place. Don't worry about the house placements. Look at the numbers. 19 Gemini for the new moon, June 10, 2021. 19 Gemini for the first quarter, March 10th, 2022. Elaborate a little more on that. Tells us that there were stresses and struggles, but it's worth it. It's just like a plant that has had, or a seed that's had to work its way through the soil, this frail, fragile little thing, just slowly finding that path of least resistance and emerging from the soil and starting to create and grow that idea, that thought, or whatever was initiated back then was beginning for you. Okay. So that's what the 90-degree angle represents, a little bit of stress and struggle. However, does not have to be difficult. It just means that we had work to do and we need to get something accomplished. And it felt like work. 9 months later, here we are. Ta-da! December 7th, full moon. It's at 16 Gemini now. It's within a few degrees range, and that's perfect. Mars has been moving back and forth across between 16 and 19 for a while. So that tells us that this full moon, while it isn't until December 7th, 11:08 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that Mars has been activating that 19 degrees of Gemini for the last couple of weeks, right? So we could even feel like the full moon, what's going on. Everybody's all heightened. The energy is high, and everybody feels like a full moon when it isn't even a full moon yet. We feel the intensity because certain areas are active and sensitive, especially when there has been an eclipse there within the last 3 years. And that's what we have. And plus, Mars and the moon are out of bounds. Venus and Mercury are also out of bounds. And the energy of out of bounds, what that represents is these 4 personal planets are in really feeling their heightened sense of energy. So again, moon in Gemini, heightened communication. Mars retrograde in Gemini. He's going to be out of bounds until May. So the energy of that is always and continuously about how I'm taking action in my words, in my communication, the contracts I sign. It's a little bit different for everybody. And so that is a lot of information. Can't believe I got that done. I am feeling a little better. All right, everybody. So there's always more. Come to Patreon if you would like to financially support me on, there's 3 or 4 different levels that you can do that. And I appreciate that because this is me. This is what we do. And thank you so much, you guys, for all of your good wishes. And I am feeling better slowly. This is my first full day back. I could feel it right across my sinuses. Anyways, all right. I'm going to end us with that. Blessings, everybody. Namaste.